Okay, so in many ways, I am probably the worst person to be giving any advice on what it's like to succeed romantically when living with alopecia or hair loss. Because I was 13 when I started losing my hair, I haven't really experienced a dating life before being bald. I assumed that I would not be attractive to anyone. So yeah, I had a massive chip on my shoulder as well as a terrible wig on my head, and it was crap because I was, I fancied people, I just didn't know how to go about it. So I remember this guy that I was chatting to at a house party who didn't go to our school, so he wouldn't have known about my alopecia. And he was flirting with me. I was probably 15, 16 at the time. And he asked me to go on a date, and that had never happened. And yet I felt the need to confess to him that I was bald and wore a wig before we'd even been on a date. Turns out he was a trainee hairdresser, so hair was clearly very important to him. Anyway, he cancelled on me before we got a chance to go on that date. So little things like that would always make me think I've been rejected because I'm bald. And I'm always going to be rejected because I'm bald. But obviously now, as a 29-year-old, I'm looking back and thinking, no, it was probably the fact that I went from being funny and chatty and confident to a nervous wreck babbling on about my hair loss and being super apologetic about it. I was hopeless with boys and was hopeless at talking about my hair loss with anyone at that age. Things weren't actually much better at university. I didn't tell anyone in my halls about my alopecia. I don't know how I went through 3 years without telling anyone. I felt like the ugly one in the halls. I remember kissing someone in the university club, and he was looking at me and he went, "Your hair's really weird." And I got up and I ran away. I literally ran out of the club. Yeah. Clearly not dealing with it. Okay, I promise it's going to start getting better soon, because it doesn't seem like it's very positive so far. My next experience after university was a relationship that went on to be really important. Probably the most important relationship. And it didn't start well in terms of how he responded to my alopecia. I agonised over telling them this because he seemed so attracted to me, and I didn't know how he would react, and I couldn't face someone going from showing me so much interest to turning off as soon as he found out that I didn't have any hair. And when I told him, he had to do a long journey back that night, and he didn't call me for a week. He didn't text me for a week. When I finally got hold of him, it turns out he just had a really busy, stressful week, he said. Yeah, he had been a bit shocked by it. He'd chatted to a friend, and this friend had asked him, does it change how you feel about her? And he said no. I mean, the fact that he was even telling me he had to talk to a friend about it, I had mixed feelings about, because it meant it was a thing. But again, maybe it was a thing to him because of how I presented it to him, this massive dramatic secret, and I was so self-conscious for the week after. And I'm ashamed that I was ashamed of my alopecia. I'm ashamed that there are days where I still am. Okay, so the good news is it won't be a big deal to everyone. Sometimes even when I've presented it as a huge deal and a massive secret I've wanted to get off my chest, it's actually been such a non-thing. So in my most recent relationship, it turns out he already knew. I thought it was such a big secret, and he knew. He'd heard me chatting to some mutual friends about it and making jokes apparently once, and so he just assumed I was confident about it, and apparently it had never been a big deal to him. He'd always been attracted to me, knowing all the time that I wore a wig for whatever reason, and it just didn't even occur to him to ask me about it, or that I might be self-conscious about it, or that I might be agonising about it, which I was. I had actual nightmares about waking up in the night and this new guy I was seeing being next to me and my hair having fallen off, or you know, him seeing me for the first time without hair. Like actual nightmares, anxiety dreams about him finding out about me wearing a wig. And this annoyed me because I'd, you know, been in such a long-term relationship where I finally had felt comfortable being bald with that person. And then it's like I had to do it all over again. And I thought so many years on that I'd be more confident, you know. The point is, it was really refreshing to finally tell this person about wearing a wig, and him just to say, yeah, I know. Is that it? Is that your big secret? Oh, thank God, you know, I thought it was going to be something huge. That's fine. And I was, yeah, just, I think I laughed out loud. I think I meant to end with some grand piece of advice, telling you it's all going to be okay, and that for anyone who's new to hair loss or alopecia, or even just hasn't come to terms with it yet, that dating with alopecia isn't a big deal. I really wish I could tell you that, but for me, it has always felt like a huge deal. And it's felt like a deal breaker for me. It's something that I've just assumed would turn guys off immediately. And in theory, I could always talk about, well, if someone's not okay with me not having hair, they're obviously not the kind of person that I want to date. And that's so much easier said than done. Everyone's got a thing, and I say that all the time. But when it comes to dating, you don't want to lay all your things out on the table straight away. But I think whether you tell someone early on, first date, third date, first hour, whenever you tell them, it should be when you want to and when you're ready to, so that you feel and sound and are confident when you do it. I think if you're agonising about it and having nightmares like I was, you need to relieve yourself from that and just tell them, because it is never bad. And if it is bad, you want to know. Equally, if it is bad and they don't talk to you for a week, you might end up going on to have a 5-year relationship with that person and love them. So it genuinely could just be that they're not great at dealing with it at first, but then they go on to be someone you feel really comfortable being bald with. So there's no right answer. We all have to have awkward conversations in our life, but how you approach talking about your alopecia to a romantic partner, romantic prospect, to a friend, to a colleague, is down to you. That's something I wish I could say to myself more often. It's up to me how awkward I make it. And I am queen of making situations awkward. I don't know why I do it. It's a defense mechanism. Maybe I think I'm funny. I just think clearly deep down I'm very insecure about the fact that I have alopecia. But I don't want to be anymore.